Your Art Unlocked is produced by Art UK, the online home of the UK's national art collection. This podcast is supported by Bloomberg Connects, the free arts and culture platform that provides access to over 1,300 museums, galleries, and cultural spaces around the world. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
I've been thinking a lot about how Anya's work challenges Welsh identity in so many ways. This picture of Anya's sister, Mair, at Cwlch Maithrin is just so great, isn't it? It's just like this extraordinary image of a young black girl with this duck that she's cwtching and made with so many different ways of using textiles that Anya's drawn from her Ghanaian roots, but also from Welsh roots, and mashed them all up.
I think art is my entire life. I don't really do anything else. I've always just made things. It's like the only thing that makes me happy and I can focus on for long periods of time. It's just what I do, what I've always done, especially textile making. Everyone always laughs at me because once I finish my textiles work for the day, I'll just like settle down with a bit of crochet or do a bit of knitting.
When you look at portraits in art galleries, you might think of oil paintings or even sculptures in bronze or stone. But the artwork we're looking at today doesn't use those materials at all. The sitter isn't a well-known person, but instead a member of the artist's family. And she's crying, holding a toy duck. What strikes me most about the work is just how tactile it is. The soft pink background looks to be made from a rug, and there's an image of a figure stitched together using different fabrics. The strands of hair are wild and free, spreading upwards and out. And in fact, I can spot real hair mixed in there. How do you go about making art using rugs and hair? Is this art or something entirely different? Anya Paintsil made this work in 2020. She's a Welsh artist of Welsh and Ghanaian heritage, known for experimenting with textiles. It's called Mair at Cwlch Maithrin. A literal translation of Cwlch Maithrin is reception circle, but in the Welsh context, it refers to a Welsh medium playgroup. Mair is Anya's little sister, and that gives some sense of the personal thread that runs throughout all of her art. Her work is often based on family members, her sister Mair and brother Levi, childhood memories and stories. In particular, myths and folk tales from both Wales and Ghana.
I really like stories. I have kind of like a rich inner fantasy life. I think I'm a bit away with the fairies a lot of the time. Art makes me feel big and like anything is possible, and I can make stuff from my head.
I'm Dr. Adéọlá, and in this episode of Your Art Unlocked, a podcast that brings to life some of the more unexpected objects in museum collections, we're at the Glynn Vivian Art Gallery in Swansea to find out more about how artist Anya Paintsil draws from her rich inner life to create mesmerizing textiles that blur the line between fine art and craft. This is your art in your museums and galleries, so let's get to know it a little better. Now, we know this is a podcast, so before we get started properly, if you want to look at this work for yourself as you listen, head to Art UK and search Mair Cwlch. That's MairCylch. Anya Paintsil was born in Wrexham, North Wales in 1993. Her mother is from Anglesey, and her father is from Ghana, where her parents met. Her family are Welsh speakers, and she attended a Welsh-speaking school. It's clear that she has a really strong sense of her own identity, despite experiencing racism at a very early age.
The environment around me was very white. I never had a feeling of wanting to be white. My experience as a mixed race person is not one of ever feeling trapped between identities. Until I was in my early 20s and I went to university in Manchester, I'd always called myself and identified as Black, and Blackness is very important to me. I've always, from both my parents, I grew up with a very big sense of pride of who I am and my background. And also, I've always been exposed to Ghanaian culture, but like also globally Black culture, even though I was living in like this tiny town in Northeast Wales. I never felt a sense of being different in a bad way. But I did have a lot of early experiences of racism from like a super, super young age. So I think I grew up, even though there wasn't a very diverse community around me, I was always very proud of who I am.
Anya moved to Manchester to study fine art at the Manchester School of Art, graduating in 2020. Mair at Gagmesharkoff is a portrait of sorts, depicting Anya's younger sister crying at nursery school, holding her toy duck, Floppy. It measures about 1 meter square in size and uses a palette of browns, black, and white. It was made while she was at university, and because of that, it was perhaps more personal and not made with an audience in mind. Here's Anya to explain more.
When I made a lot of my early work, I didn't think about it being public. My Gagmesharkoff I made while I was at uni. I didn't think it'd end up in a museum. And then I think I've definitely made my work more, I don't want to say cryptic, but I think there's a lot more work now that I don't necessarily communicate what it's about. But my work is very personal, always. I suppose it's a form of visual history or writing our history of a family and who we are and who we were. It was very much focused on looking back and childhood and also experience, but in a way, grief, I think, and remembrance. I think there's a natural self-mythologizing with my work.
The Glynn Vivian Art Gallery in Swansea acquired Mair at Gagmesharkoff in 2020. The same year, Anya graduated. That's quite a remarkable achievement for such a young artist. Because of Anya's Welsh heritage, it feels especially important that this work is owned by a Welsh museum. Here's curator Karen MacKinnon to tell us more about how Anya's work entered the collection.
We found out about Anya Paintsil's work through an award that we run every year called the Wakelin Award. It's for Welsh artists based in Wales. So whilst the award was set up to support emerging artists or established artists, we felt that it was really, really important to focus on underrepresented artists in the collection. So women, artists of colour, people from different disabilities. The last 3 works that we've collected have been women, which I'm really pleased about.
During and just after 2020, in the wake of Black Lives Matter, an international movement that aimed to highlight institutional racism, museums and galleries were faced with hard truths about their collections. In Wales, many made deliberate efforts to acknowledge, commission, and spotlight Black artists who had been living and working in Wales, but who went largely unnoticed within the Welsh art scene. Here's Karen again.
I think a number of things played a role in Anya's selection. One of the things in the atrium, we had portraits. We just showed portraits. And it became very clear to us that the people were all white. The people were of a particular class. The people were all painted by men. And it was a really difficult moment because soon after that, Black Lives Matter hit, COVID, everything was going on. But what I think we realised was that we were doing everything we could in our exhibitions programme, our learnings programme, to be inclusive, to be representative for everyone. But the elephant in the room was this massive collection, like it was for all the galleries across the UK. We were no different in that sense. So, yeah, it was a real wake-up call about what our collection, who it represented, who it was for.
You can find out more about the Glynn Vivian Art Gallery and hundreds of other collections on Bloomberg Connects, the free arts and culture platform. Download the app today.
Anya mixes traditional rug hooking techniques taught to her by her grandmother with materials such as wool, fabric, and hair, often her own. That's a way for the artist to physically and symbolically weave herself into the fabric of her works. And in working with her hair and black hairstyling techniques, Anya is also perhaps saying something bigger about the importance of Black women and our specific cultural experiences. Her craft practice also draws inspiration from her own ancestral background, the Fante people of Ghana's tradition of creating figurative textiles. In Western art, embroidery and textiles have often been associated with the feminine and the domestic, and are often seen as a lesser art in comparison to painting and sculpture. Anya herself has spoken previously about wanting to pursue textiles, particularly because they are looked down upon. Here's Karen again.
I think at the gallery, we also like to challenge the boundaries between fine art and craft, but it's about elitism, isn't it? And I think with Anya's work, it's really embedded in the work itself. You've got this beautiful rug hooking that she's learned from her Welsh maternal grandmother. And then you've got the Canacolon style and using human hair that she's drawing from a Welsh Ghanaian background and putting these things together. That's what I love about Anya's work, that she gives us ways in, not only through the materials, but also through using her own hair, relating to her own family in these works. And the fact that they are rugs, I think that draws people in. There's something that could be in my home and there's something that I can really relate to. So I love that. It just draws people in and they can think about that line between craft and between fine art.
Another striking thing is how Anya's work challenges traditional European portraiture. In fact, she doesn't see her own work as sitting within the conventions and history of Western art.
People definitely have a tendency to over-intellectualize my work and look for art historical reasons. I'm not referencing the European fine art canon. I see myself sitting within a different art history, which is an African art history.
Anya's work is rooted in West African art, such as carvings and masks. She has spoken about how these influences have shaped the way she makes faces, eyes, and teeth, for example. This is clear in the exaggerated features of Mair, transforming an everyday person into a type of spectacle. It also reminds me of carnival masking traditions in my home island of Trinidad. There are historic accounts of enslaved people covering themselves in the black molasses that was produced on the sugarcane plantations. This bedaubing practice is still evident in Caribbean carnivals today. The blackening of already black skin exaggerated the stigmatized and the brutalized body, drawing direct attention to the inhumane cruelty of the system. There's a sense that Anya is drawing attention to racist tropes, weaving them into the fabric of her work. Although her own experiences of racism aren't directly depicted, there's an undercurrent that runs through her work. Anya's works often confront the viewer, despite the softness of the materials, and they very clearly challenge notions of identity. But her work stands out because it questions a number of things all at once, as curator Karen MacKinnon suggests.
It just breaks open, doesn't it? All of the boxes that we put things in, whether that's young women, because in her work she does challenge beauty myths about young women, and she's challenging what it means to be Welsh. And I just think it's an extraordinary picture of that, from the materiality of it to the way that she looks. Because I know Anya talks about growing up in North Wales and the challenges of being the only Black family in a particular area. So I think the work itself captures that otherness, as well as being really funny and really playful.
After years of living and working in London, Anya recently moved back to rural Wales, to the Ceiriog Valley. As a result, she has returned to some of the ways she used to work at the beginning of her career, before the commercial art world came calling. For Anya, the meaning of her work lies in the making itself. It's the creative act that matters most. Here's Anya to explain more.
Since I've moved back to Wales, there's a definite coming home, which I've found really invigorating and stimulated my practice in a really cool way. When I bought my house, it was an old holiday home that had been abandoned, but then when I got the keys, it was just full of rubbish. So at first I was fuming, but then I was like, okay, I've got a free piano, a free sofa, and then I've got all of this fabric and weird stuff. So I like cut up the sofa, I cut up everything. There's even old clothes left here, so I cut them up and put them in my work. And I think that was a sense of definitely coming back to the origins of my practice, because I've been working in the commercial art world for 6 years now and producing a lot to deadlines and just buying things, where earlier in my practice, the majority of materials I would use would be secondhand. I think it's weird when you haven't grown up with money and then suddenly you can just buy every craft material you've dreamed of. I think having constraints on my work is often a good thing for me, and that's where I find most of my real imagination and fun and also joy. So I like to find constraints and push whatever I have, and the materials around me, I like to transform them.
When I look at Anya's work, I think of the concept of demasking. But what do I mean by that? Well, while unmasking suggests the taking off of your own mask, demasking is used to mean the removal of your mask through an encounter with a masked subject. So what does this encounter with Mair at Gagmesharkoff reveal to us about ourselves? Anya's work draws on personal narratives, but also creates opportunities to see ourselves and each other. It makes visible something which was always there, but may have gone unnoticed. Through this woven piece, we see Anya and her sister, glimpse her grandmothers and ancestors, and perhaps even see something of ourselves. Thanks for joining me, Adéọlá, artist Anya Paintsil, and Karen MacKinnon from the Glynn Vivian Art Gallery in Swansea, as we delved deeper into Anya's very personal art. You can listen to more episodes of Your Art Unlocked wherever you get your podcasts.
Your Art Unlocked is produced by Art UK, the online home of the UK's national art collection, supported by Bloomberg Connects. Explore more art at artuk.org.